Mr. Speaker, Canadians are suffering one of the worst affordability crises in generations.
4.9 million temporary residents expected to leave Canada by 2025. So
finally, Canada has decided to throw out the people out of the country, especially the international students. Unfortunately, 2 million international students who are in this country, Canada has no plans of giving them a PR. Points are not coming down. LMIA points are removed. Government has also added 500 CABSA officers because there are 35,000 illegal people who are already residing in the country. So they are added so they can be deported. 2 million people will be leaving Canada. Those were the international students to whom the agents back in India and other third world countries have sold them the dream that they spend $40,000, $50,000, $60,000, guys, and come to Canada, work hard, pay taxes here on the work permit, and after that you will get a PR and you can have a well settled life. Many of them has huge loans, but Canada doesn't have a plan. More than 2 million people have to go. Half of them maybe go by the end of 2025 and other by 2026. Every single week or two, we are hearing the news from the people whom we know. Their work permit are expiring, they are leaving. Let's see what happens.
A new poll finds that nearly half of Canadians now want mass deportations. That's right, 48% of Canadians believe that mass deportations are necessary to stop illegal migration, and 65% now believe there are too many immigrants in Canada. Only 35% of Canadians held that view in March 2019, but 49% of Canadians did agree this year that immigrants are generally good for the economy, and 70% said they tend to take jobs that those born in Canada don't want to do.
To some other news this morning, a concerning new report from Food Banks Canada says increased levels of poverty and hunger are becoming normalized in this country. Food bank visits continue to rise across Canada, reaching nearly 2.2 monthly visits. That's double the number from 2019. CTV's Scott Hurst is on that story for us this morning, and he is with me now. Scott, this is a really concerning report that...
This should not be normalized. It's not normal. And this shouldn't be the way Canada is today. In fact, we have spent over $50 billion in EV mandates that are failing. This is a gross negligence. It's political gross negligence by the Liberal Party of Canada. Food banks rely on our after-tax dollars. Do you think we get a tax write-off when we drop off food? We don't. And what we're doing is we're subsidizing the failures of our government, plain and simple. It shouldn't be this way. The government gets to benefit from taking our tax dollars and taking our generosity for their failures. And meanwhile, we commit billions of dollars to other countries. It's ridiculous. You see, this is an accumulation of failed Liberal policies. It's a compound effect that has happened over years. And Mark Carney told us sacrifices need to be made. For starters, why don't we sacrifice the aid that we give to other countries and start giving aid to our own people? Guys, this isn't normal. This should not be normalized. This is not okay. We are not okay. We are facing a food poverty crisis. Why do you think the Liberal Party introduced a food program, a permanent food program for our schools and for children? It's to cover up for their failures. If the Liberals introduced policies that allowed for more investments into the country, to allow for lower taxes, to have high wage paying jobs, if we had controlled immigration, this wouldn't be a problem. Guys, they failed. Them putting out these new programs at your cost and your expense for their failures, it's not normal. Plain and simple, it's a cover-up. You should not be thanking them. You should be disgusted with them. It should be disgusting that we are at this point that we have to fund this type of a program in the first place.
This is my first ever legit title I ever got.
This is what Tamari Lindo calls his contribution to Canada. Medal after medal in hurtling. But despite all this,
these are all of them.
He may never get to compete for our country on the biggest stage because each passing day brings him closer to deportation.
It does hurt to feel like it kind of gives me a sense of like feeling like unwanted.
Tamari and his family came to Canada from Jamaica in 2019.
Like Lindo's gonna take it home.
Since then, becoming one of the country's top-ranked hurdlers at the collegiate level, his father, George Lindo, filing a refugee claim for political asylum after he says he was targeted by gangs while volunteering for Jamaica's political opposition party, even shot at and his throat slashed.
I was just praying for God to...
The family was facing deportation last year, but after public pressure, Ottawa granted them a 1-year extension, which is now coming to an end.
Honestly, I don't know what I would do. I don't even know where to start. Like, I'll just be completely broken.
Last year, Immigration, Refugees and Citizenship Canada said it found that the violence that the family was facing in Jamaica could not be linked to their political activism.
Saying in a statement, crime including murder is widespread throughout Jamaica. Any risk they face is not personalized. It's one shared generally by all persons living in Jamaica.
It's complete nonsense. We're talking about someone who is being specifically targeted because of their political work.
The awards, the accolades, and an Olympic future could all be gone, but with the removal proceedings already begun for this family, there's a lot more they could stand to lose.
Tamari, what do you think is going to happen to you and your family if you go back to Jamaica?
Honestly, I think it will be death, honestly.
Now facing a race against time, this family feels winning this battle could be a matter of life and death. Kamal Karamali, CTV News, Oakville, Ontario.
Let's take a step back on the immigration system and I'll give some perspective, if I may, which is if we go back 6-7 years, the number of what are called non-permanent residents, so temporary foreign workers, students, asylum seekers, other people who've come to Canada and haven't yet become citizens. You know, most people in Canada at one point, either themselves or their parents or grandparents, were immigrants to this country at one time. But these are people who haven't yet become citizens. That used to be about 3% of the population. Just before I became Prime Minister, it had gone up to 7.5% of our population. So a big, big increase. And so that's what this MP, I don't remember who said it, but was referring to. And so our challenge is to, and this is what we're doing, is to make sure that we rapidly build up our ability for those who are here, who are working, who are building a life, to do that. Those who should go back, asylum seekers who are not going to ultimately get asylum, that we return them, track them and return them. That we reduce the flow of new temporary Canadians, temporary residents in Canada, and I just gave you the figures on that, so we can manage down the overall level in a responsible way. And we're doing all of those things in about 2-3 weeks' time. We'll be releasing our immigration plan, our next immigration levels plan, and that will include many of the steps that we'll be taking around these issues.
Immigration law is about to change in major ways, and it's not Congress doing it. It's Donald Trump versus 6 federal judges. Here's what you need to know. For birthright citizenship, New Hampshire judge blocked Donald Trump's executive order denying citizenship to children born of undocumented moms and dads. It's back in federal court now as a class action lawsuit. And the question becomes, will the Supreme Court accept an injunction in a class action lawsuit when they didn't accept an injunction in the prior lawsuits by the states? For border closures and asylum, a Washington, D.C. judge blocked Donald Trump from stopping the adjudication of asylum claims on the U.S. border. The real question is, how far can executive power go? Can the president stop asylum with a proclamation and executive order, even though the law says he has to process asylum claims? In an obscure law called the Alien Enemies Act from 1798, Donald Trump is using it to deport alleged Venezuelan gang members without any court hearing or judicial oversight. The Fifth Circuit is now deciding whether that's even legal, and what due process, which means a fair hearing, are these alleged gang members entitled to. For expedited removals, the Department of Homeland Security.
Mr. Speaker, Canadians are suffering one of the worst affordability crises in generations. 60% are having trouble meeting their monthly expenses.
Shame.
Half are using credit cards or borrowing money for daily needs, paying interest rates of 19% or more. Food bank usage has doubled since 2019. People shouldn't have to struggle like this in a country as wealthy as Canada. What steps is this government taking to make sure Canadians don't have to go into debt just to feed their families?
If you want to get deported, do these 3 things as an Indian national, and
The third one is gonna save your life. Number one is stay out of your records. Okay, if you have applied for a work permit, it got rejected and you waited 90 days just in order so that you can buy out some time. Now, MTO and CBSA officers are on your ass at this moment, and they can come forward to you and your place at any time, hold you accountable, pick you up and put you up on a flight and get you out of this country. So if you really do not want to get deported, start applying for the records that can actually save up your life. Number two is you will tell everyone that you meet that you are illegal here, that you haven't applied for anything, you are on benefits, you are on refugee claims, and watch how the tables will turn. Those people are going to report you to CBSA and MTO, and it will create a better understanding for you and for them, because at the end of the day, no one is real over here. So if you really want to do that, go ahead, tell your SIN number, your last name, first name, your bank account details, be in a love triangle, love fraud, or something that can actually get you up towards that hook and create a problem for you. And number three is you're still gonna drive Uber, you're still gonna do cash jobs, you're still gonna go ahead and do the trucking, kill people around, be a massacre maniac, and provide anything that is not resemble to how you should be treating yourself. So if you really do not want to do all of that, high time, consult a lawyer, an immigration consultant, get your records sorted. And if you have any kind of criminality in this country, especially in Canada, you are gone. Forget about your PR and anything. Refugee claimants will be the first one to go away, second will be the visitor visa, and third will be the ones who have no record. So if you really want to do something for yourself, time to act smart, keep your mouth shut, and go ahead, because no one is real and it's gonna bother you when the things go wrong. Hope this helps.
It's over. The Biden administration has decided not to renew the humanitarian program that allowed over 500,000 migrants to stay here in the U.S. protected under temporary protective status. The temporary protective status offered migrants from Venezuela, Haiti, Nicaragua, Cuba, the ability to stay in the country protected under this program. Well, it's been 2 years, and unless the Biden administration renew the program, these migrants are now up in the air, and their temporary protective status, it's over, which means now they're undocumented, and they can face deportation. And unless any of those migrants have married a U.S. citizen, as of January 1st, 2025, they can begin deportation. These migrants from these 4 countries hoped that the Biden administration would renew their program and giving them an extension. The extension would have allowed them to remain in the country legally protected under the program. So what does it mean for over 500,000 migrants working in the U.S.? Well, now that the program will not be renewed, it means that they no longer have the authorization to legally work in the United States. It means that over 500,000 migrants are now going to be working illegally. It also means that if they get caught, they can be deported on the spot. The administration was criticized for not renewing the program because the situation in all these countries has not changed.
Essentially, you're asking Parliament to give your department the power to cancel people who've come to Canada on permanent resident visas and temporary resident visas. This never happens. It's a 2-hour committee meeting.
Ms. Rempel-Gardner, I'm asking you and everyone else here if we could take a 5-minute break. If you are against it, that's okay. So now we will have, you have said no, so we will continue. So now we are going to go, despite everybody else saying yes, we will continue. You will have, we now have Ms. Rempel-Gardner starting the 4th round for 5 minutes.
Thank you. I'm here to work, Chair. Minister.
So are we.
Thank
you.
Minister. Thank you, Chair. Minister, I just want to be clear, there are presently, per your testimony, no asylum claimants in any hotel or temporary accommodation in Canada right now.
Rempel-Garner, MP, begins with an information-seeking question to confirm a factual statement made earlier by the witness regarding hotel accommodations for asylum claimants. This establishes a foundational fact for her subsequent line of inquiry.
I said there's no asylum claimants in hotel accommodations, IRC. No, there isn't. I didn't say there. Obviously, there's there's other municipalities have places, but not in hotels that are paid for by the federal government or anyone else. That's correct.
The witness, Diab, carefully clarifies the statement. She confirms that the federal government, IRCC, is not directly funding hotel accommodations, but acknowledges that other temporary housing arrangements may exist through municipalities. This distinction attempts to narrow the scope of the federal government's responsibility.
So you're not paying for those asylum claimants that were in hotels to be in other places right now in any way, shape, or form?
The MP pushes for a definitive answer on ongoing support, trying to confirm if all federal financial responsibility for this specific group has ceased.
So we have transferred funding to municipalities, but there's no asylum claimants in hotels.
The witness confirms the transfer of funds to municipalities, maintaining the key point that IRCC is out of the hotel business, but is still providing support indirectly through local governments.
Okay, so basically what you guys have done is remove the hotel line item and force people out on the streets while transferring more money to municipalities. Is that about right?
The MP escalates with a highly rhetorical and accusatory question, suggesting the government's action was merely a budget transfer that resulted in homeless individuals, despite the funding to municipalities.
I didn't say that.
Okay, thank you.
The witness flatly denies the negative interpretation presented by the MP, avoiding the loaded language, force people out on the streets.
Okay, thank you. I'd like to go back to the section on mass cancellations. So just to reemphasize what you said, you are saying that this section doesn't apply to asylum claimants, correct?
The MP shifts abruptly to the mass cancellation powers, again seeking to confirm who is or isn't covered by the new proposed legislation.
That is correct. Okay. These powers are used in exceptional cases for fraud purposes, health crises like pandemics, safety, national security.
So fraud is
not for individual asylum claimants.
The witness confirms the exclusion of individual asylum claims, but lists the broad, serious categories where the power would be used: fraud, health, safety, and national security.
Fraud is not mentioned in C-12 once, and the section that gives you power to cancel immigration applications, including permanent residence visas, doesn't include fraud. It's not, public interest isn't defined. So
the MP highlights a critical ambiguity in the bill's wording. By stating that fraud is not mentioned and public interest isn't defined, she suggests the government is seeking dangerously broad, undefined executive power.
So, you weren't able to give an example, a specific example of where you would use this before. I'm just puzzled why you would be asking Parliament to grant you authority to cancel somebody's permanent resident visa without going through Parliament if you can't name an example.
The MP's main critique crystallizes. The vast new powers lack justification and legal clarity. She questions why Parliament should grant this broad authority if the government cannot even provide a clear, specific use case other than general concepts.
So as I said earlier, happy to repeat, these are not meant to be used for individual cases.
Okay, so
these powers are for intentionally, public interest is not defined in the legislation to allow for flexibility for government to respond to various measures.
The witness defends the lack of definition as intentional flexibility, arguing the broad language is necessary for the government to react to unforeseen major crisis situations. This is a common defense for broad executive powers.
That are not for individual cases.
But you talked about some of these examples being during the pandemic when there were a lot of fraudulent visas or letters issued to students.
No,
right?
no, I never said that.
Okay, but I'm trying to find an example where you would use this, because to me it seems like you're trying to give yourself and your department more powers to correct mistakes in the system that they would have made in screening out, potential fraud to begin with, that affects real people with real lives.
The MP concludes her argument with an emotional appeal, characterizing the new powers as a means for the department to cover up its own screening failures by retroactively punishing immigrants, impacting real people.
You're telling people, like essentially you're asking Parliament to give your department the power to cancel people who've come to Canada on permanent resident visas and temporary resident visas without a lot of definition.
Absolutely not correct. The
Okay, then what would
Minister
the
of
example be?
IRCC will not have these authorities.
The witness attempts to decentralize the power, stating the minister won't hold the authority personally.
And council would, right?
The decision rests with government. That
Yeah, but not
would
Parliament.
issue an order in council that would be made public.
But not Parliament. So,
To intervene on the
if you were-
on documents.
Ms. Rempel-Garner, kindly allow her to answer the question.
Minister next week, and somebody asked you,
If I was
a Red FM panel next week, and a radio host said, who does this apply to? What would you tell the radio host?
Again, these are meant to protect us.
Who's us?
The government, the Canadian public. It's to protect
From
the
what?
Canadian public
From
from
what
safety, from
Allow her to
major
answer
crises.
the question, Ms. Rempel-Garner.
That's what it's meant for. It's to
1
intervene
minute.
when there's, in the opinion of the governor and council, it's in the public interest to do so.
The government and council powers to protect Canada from groups of immigrants? Which groups of immigrants?
There's rise in exploitation. I don't think I need to tell you that.
Yeah, but why
There's
would
many
you-
that are brought in along, and we've learned a lot of lessons from COVID-19 pandemic that pointed to gaps in the authorities that currently exist
Why
in
wouldn't
Canada.
you just make the system work as opposed to punishing victims of human trafficking? This seems like you're literally saying that you're going to cancel whole groups of people's permanent residence visas? without
Absolutely not
defining
saying
what
that. And
that's
the reason
exactly
why
what the
this
legislation says.
legislation is to make things work better.
I think you're saying, you said protect Canadians from people. Which people?
It's to protect Canadians from public crises.
I move that a bill intituled New Resident Health Cost Recovery Act 2025. British Columbia's healthcare system is under tremendous strain. Last year alone, British Columbia added more than 150,000 new residents, the fastest increase in over 60 years. And nearly all that growth came from international migration. Non-permanent residents now make up 7.3% of everyone who calls this province home. Emergency room waits are reaching 14 hours, and more than 1 million British Columbians are without a family doctor. That's why I am introducing the new Resident Health Cost Recovery Act 2025. This bill requires new residents who are not yet Canadian citizens or permanent residents to pay an annual health registration fee of $7,500 per person as a condition of coverage under the Medicare Protection Act. That amount reflects the average annual cost of publicly funded health care in BC. The fee will be adjusted for inflation each year and will cease once the individual becomes a permanent resident or a Canadian citizen. All revenues will go into a dedicated health cost recovery account, used only to administer the Act and fund health services for new residents. Most new arrivals earning modest incomes as they get established naturally contribute far less than taxes at first, yet their care is just as costly. This bill closes that gap fairly and transparently so that everyone who receives publicly funded health care also helps pay to keep it strong for the future. Thank you.
Approximately even.
30,000 removals in progress of people we are engaging. We have 32,000 warrants for people that we are looking for.
32, I beg your pardon? There are 32,000 warrants?
People who are in our wanted inventory that we are actively looking for.
I'm sorry. You have...
And I'll point out, all of this is posted publicly. These aren't secret numbers. They're on the CBSA website.
So you know them, but the minister doesn't. Okay. So I'm sorry. There are 32,000 people set for deportation that are on warrant, which means you don't know where they are. Am I clear?
Correct. We are looking for them. And I will point out, these, as I said, are points in time. And so since we last met, we have removed more of those people on warrant. And then, unfortunately, we have had people who have absconded. These are fluid.
I understand.
And
they're fluid.
500 CBSA officers doing excellent work
I don't
all of
doubt
the
that,
time
ma'am.
to remove these individuals.
Ma'am.
CBSA wants to deport over 30,000 Canadians. That's Canada Border Services Agency. And these are the areas they'll be looking at. They'll be looking at people who are maybe refugees, students converting to refugees. So those kind of people. So this is not a time to come into Canada on a visit visa and get refugee. I know it works for a lot of people, some people, but it is very, very risky. It's a 50-50 game. So instead of doing that, why don't you just apply for jobs? Like I've posted so many jobs, so many opportunities. There are people getting this. There are people getting these jobs. Don't go and fall into the trap of CBS, because once they deport you, to come into this country again would be by fire and brimstone. It will be so difficult to come into this country again. So please make the right decisions, do the right thing, apply for jobs like your life depends on it. Okay. When I say apply for, don't be applying to 2 jobs in a day. Apply to like 20, 30 jobs every day. So if you're in healthcare, you're applying to 30 healthcare jobs every day. You are researching, you are looking for jobs, you're using my platform, you're using Indeed, you're using LinkedIn, you're using all sorts to apply for all jobs. That is the only way to work, and in a few months you'll be able to get a job. I've gotten so many DMs that said I got a sponsored job. Something's in I need another job. People are getting these sponsored jobs. Don't let anybody deceive you. They are getting it. I had someone wrote a comment and said there are no jobs in. Is it possible, even as bad as Nigeria is? Is it? I can bet you that they are still hiring foreigners to some certain sectors in Nigeria. Why people are complaining we don't have money, there's no job. There are people that are still coming to Nigeria as expatriates and they are still hiring them. So no matter how bad an economy is, there will still be jobs available for people to do. So apply for all these jobs and thank me later.
4.9 million temporary residents expected to leave Canada by 2025. So regarding immigration, I believe in a system, not a revolving door. However, if you came here with your family from another country and you see a better future for them and the tap water doesn't fight back and you don't have to trade your daughter for a goat, then guess what? I'm not going to leave either.
I'm making a genuine and desperate appeal to the Jamaican consulate in Canada if it is possible to arrange a chartered flight to have volunteers to go back home to assist their loved ones. I will be on board, and I'm sure there are many persons who share the same sentiment and have the same belief and the same desire. If you guys can formulate a chartered flight to have volunteers going home to Jamaica to help those who are desperately in need, to go on the rescue mission and the Save Jamaica mission, we are ready. Could you guys make it possible? Please, I'm asking. We're ready to go.
I feel so humiliated.
Kazi Amin has lived in Canada for nearly 30 years, and in that time, she says she's never experienced something like this.
I think it's 100% Islamophobia.
It happened last Friday at the Toronto Pearson Airport. Amin was returning to Winnipeg from a family trip to Bangladesh. She passed through security with no problems at all, but when she went to board her Flair Airlines flight, things took a turn.
They looked at the passport and screamed and said, "You don't look anything like your picture. What is this?"
Amin's daughter, Sarah Rida, says the attendant took issue with her mother's passport photo taken nearly 10 years ago before she started wearing a hijab.
She started to yell and say, "You have to take off your headscarf."
Despite explaining it's a religious covering and to remove it in public would be the equivalent of undressing, Amin says she was forced to take off her hijab right there at the gate in front of everyone.
I feel so helpless, so humiliated. So I didn't know what else I could do.
According to the Canadian Air Transport Security Authority, you don't have to remove a religious head covering unless it causes an alarm during screening. And even then, if a physical search is required, a private room should be made available. Flair Airlines CEO Machi Vilk tells CTV News in a written statement, discrimination of any kind is not tolerated, and we're committed to ensuring every passenger is treated with dignity and respect.
So as you may or may not know, Canada is officially dead. Canada is done. It had been declining steadily and heavily for 10, 11, 12 years now, but officially dead. And it's wild how so many people don't realize what's happening in their own country, where anywhere I go in the world, people hear that I'm Canadian, they're like, I'm sorry for your loss. Yeah, many people down here in Costa Rica have left Canada because they realize that it is just deceased. Beyond all of the ridiculous immigration, the laws, the wokeism, the trade deals with America that is absolutely done, our economy collapsing, the freedom of speech laws that are being passed, a government that absolutely is on a trajectory to just completely implode the country. It is sad, honestly, and it's wild how more people don't realize that it's one of the most unaffordable countries. We have the worst healthcare. Soon, me being a Canadian saying this online is going to be illegal, if it's not already legal. Like, what is hate speech? It's just absolutely wild. So, if you have ever considered packing up your bags, leaving Canada, getting out, renouncing your residency, you can absolutely do that. There are many places in the world that are wonderful, that are beautiful, that are affordable, where you can get great healthcare, education, although I do recommend homeschooling your kids so that they don't become brain dead like the rest of society. But yeah, there are other options. So I know so many of you that have been messaging me being like, Sam, Canada, how do I leave? It's not that hard. You just need to make a plan, pick a country, get a visa. Oftentimes you don't even need a visa. Pack up your life and move there. I always tell you that being an entrepreneur is the easiest way, so that you are not location dependent and that you are not job dependent. When you have the ability to work from anywhere in the world, it means that you can go and move anywhere in the world when you realize that your country is absolutely destroyed. So yeah, this little video is to bring awareness and to write you a permission slip that if you're not happy where you are and you realize that your country is completely an abomination, you can get up and leave. Okay, bye.
It is with an absolute heavy heart that I post this video right now. I didn't even want to make a video like this, but I have to call out some of these Canadian brands. The fact that my team reached out to numerous brands and not even, actually maybe one of you guys responded. Beautiful island of Jamaica that we all know and love so much has been hit with a terrible hurricane, and as a Canadian influencer who's worked with multiple brands including hotels, airlines, the airport, I decided that I was going to put together a team of volunteers to fly down to Jamaica and do some volunteer work. And I've reached out to a number of brands in support of Jamaica and the tragedy that's been happening with Hurricane Melissa. Because I've worked with so many brands, I figured my background being Jamaican, I thought to myself that I'd put together a team and bring down a group of us to go down and volunteer. In that, I decided I will not be reaching out to my followers. Instead, I'll be reaching out to the brands that I've represented over the years. And only one out of 50 emails that we sent out, more than 50 emails since Tuesday, only one responded. And that is so sad. That is so heartbreaking. It is so unfortunate that this is what it has come to. Toronto, that is a city that has thrived off of Jamaican culture, Jamaican music, Jamaican food, and just urban culture in general has been influenced by Jamaica. The fact that we have to beg you guys to support after Hurricane Melissa is so unfortunate. And for me, the support can mean anything. It doesn't always have to be monetary. It could be through your PR products. It could be through gift cards for clothes, for shoes, for so much people who lost their homes and their livelihood. But the fact that only one single brand responded is so sad. It's so heartbreaking. I really have to call you guys out because I've made significant amount of money for Canadian brands over the years of being an influencer. Thousands of dollars. As a Jamaican, you guys can't even see it fit to respond? I grew up in Jamaica. I have family in Jamaica. My mother's in Jamaica. My father-in-law, my mother-in-law is in Jamaica. My aunts, my nieces, my nephews, my sisters, my brothers, that are all affected by Hurricane Melissa. I only ask at this point is that you guys do what is right and support Jamaica.
What's up, beautiful and amazing people? So guys, in today's video we are going to talk about the looming mass deportation in Canada. So we all know that America, Canada, Australia, UK, those are major continents and countries that many people from developing countries love to go and do their assholes. Either they are legally there or illegally there, it doesn't matter, but they just love being in the land of opportunities. So today I want us to talk about, the mass deportation, because currently the Canadian citizens are complaining. Guys, around 48% of them are saying that we need to our leaders need to mass deport these immigrants because they are taking away our jobs, they are taking away our healthcare, they are taking away our education system, and therefore the poverty levels in Canada is rising up. But I don't know what you think about that. That's according to them. We can also see their leaders in cabinet meetings, in the parliament, debating about this thing and also introducing some bills that will actually bar migrations into their country. In fact, they are introducing they are tightening their immigration rules. I could see a Jamaican athlete. Okay, he was an athlete, then went to to Canada, continued with athletics, and he has won so many medals for Canada. And 1 year ago, the entire family were almost being deported. Luckily, due to public outcry, they were telling the Canadian government, if you take them back, it's like sending them back to their death bed or death trap, and kindly just pardon them, let them stay. And they continue. They were given. They actually extended their stay in Canada for 1 year, which is almost getting over. And now they are also extremely stressed because remember they seek asylum or they are asylum seekers in Canada after having some differences or being misunderstood politically. And you could hear that they were kind tortured psychologically, physically, that they had to run for their lives. But now the government is saying that just go back to your country. Your country is ready to welcome you back. Anyway, guys, I don't know what their fate will be like, but let's hope for the best because they want to be in Canada. They don't want to go back to Jamaica for that specific reason. But of course, Jamaica is the land that we all love, a beautiful island, though they really faced something horrible some few days ago, that is Hurricane Melissa, which completely took Jamaica to zero because most homesteads, they are completely destroyed, power completely destroyed. I mean, currently in Jamaica, there is no network, there is no electricity, the roads have been destroyed. There has been unalivings because it was flooding and the wind was so strong. It was crazy. So during that period, some Canadians came out, the Jamaican Canadians came out, and they did all this particular kind of charity event that saw them be able to support the Jamaicans back at home. And it was awesome. One content creator who has been working with so many brands in Canada and all over the world, she wrote to 50 brands for support, and unfortunately only one of the brand responded, and she really felt sad about it because as a content creator, you feel like once you have worked with a brand, it's like a family, in good, in bad times. And in this particular time, I would say the good times were when she was really doing well, advertising the products of this company. And then now it's the sad time that, she needs them, not that the brands need her. And the brands, she reached out to them, no one responds except one brand. And she felt sad, you could see from her eyes, because she thought that since I've worked with this brand, then it will be easier for them to come, I mean, to hold our hand, support the Jamaican people, even if it's not monetary, probably some other way, but it was sad anyway. So some Jamaicans in Canada were begging the consulate, like, honestly, kindly, just help us formulate a chartered flight. And then we can go and volunteer in Jamaica and save the Jamaican brothers, sisters, our parents, because it was just really bad. And guys, you can imagine so many people go to Canada to study, and then after that they kind of acquire, this refugee status. They just find a way of staying in Canada, which is not bad, because you gotta find ways in which you are going to survive. Because if you go with a student visa, most of the time, like after you finish schooling, you are needed to probably go back, or just find a visa that will enable you stay in Canada or whichever country that you are in. So unfortunately for Canadians, they're like, if you are an international student and your visa has expired, you will be deported soon. And most of the international students are from developing countries. When they go there, they don't really go to study with the mind of coming back home, because back home there are no opportunities, so they prefer to stay there. They work there, and then probably if they're lucky get permanent residency, and they'll be able to support their families back home. But now things are getting turned up. Canadians are coming out and complaining about all these issues, because most programs have been formulated to support these immigrants, those that are asylum seekers, the refugees, students. They are just programs that really support them, and these programs, they are run by the taxpayers of Canada. So most agencies, actually, if you have noted something, if you are an international student in these developed countries, most of them, they go through or via agencies, and these agencies, they tell them that once you finish your school, you can be able to get a permanent residency, and you'll actually live there forever. Okay, they are promised unrealistic things. At the back of the mind of the agents, they know that it's up to how you'll be able to maneuver all these things. But of course, if you are going as a new person, you will not be able to really get to understand what they mean. So according to news outside there, 4.5 million temporary residents will be required to vacate or move out of Canada by the end of 2025. We are already in November 2025. So like next month, 4.5 million of them are required to voluntarily, self-deport, instead of, the government, or the government forming a body. Like in America, they have ICE, which goes around, they do some investigation, they come for you, and they forcefully deport you. So the leaders in Canada are really pressurizing, the consulate. They're telling them that, you need to tighten these immigration rules. We don't need more people here, because the more they come, the more the more the level of poverty in Canada goes up. And that's not who we are, because like some few years ago, the rate at which we had immigrants was low, but now it's high. But guys, at the end of the day, we really need these countries. We really need them, because they really support us in one way or the other. Once you are in a developed country, you are able to support your entire family, because there you have the opportunity of working whichever number of jobs that you want, and then it's just kind of easy. Of course, it's not like easy compared to our countries. There are no opportunities. In fact, we have, like, for instance, Kenya, there is around 5 million jobless people. That is just an average. And I remember the youth the most populated in these developing countries, and those are the people that don't really have jobs. So the leaders there in Canada, like, the gap keeps increasing, and it's not good for our economy. But I wish they knew that as much as they don't need immigrants, they should understand that immigrants also, they offer, they offer them they offer them jobs at low wages. At the end of the day, they are saving their money. They probably, maybe they want to be like America, but at the end of the day, after they chase the immigrants away, they'll now see their benefit, because of course a normal Canadian citizen cannot go to the farm. Probably it's the immigrants who do those kind of jobs. So I will say that some people in Canada, the immigrants, okay, those who are legally there, they don't really fear speaking in social media spaces. So they're saying that, guys, if you are thinking about going to Canada now, just change your mind, because things are getting tougher, rules are being tightened. They don't want more people there. So you gotta change your mind and probably get to look at any other country. And again, there is a leader who was suggesting that if you are not a legal resident of Canada, or if you are, a temporary resident, instead of using the taxpayers' money to or probably afford these healthcare facilities, it will be better if you pay $7,500 per person per annum. And that fee, it will depend on the inflation. If the inflation goes up, it goes up. If it goes down, but then the day that you will get the permanent residency, then it will probably go down. But they're like, it's not fair that you are using our taxes to, treat yourselves, to get healthcare services. You also have to pay. Anyway, I don't know how that will go, but let's wait and see. In America, the president himself, Trump, has banned programs that supported families without jobs to rent or buy homes. Now I'm like, why is the president banning everything? He banned UAID, USA. He has actually banned Obamacare. Most of these things, I mean, it's just crazy, guys. So, of course, we will have that percentage of Canadians who are like, immigrants are very important and they are necessary for our Canadian economy, so we need them. Don't chase them away. Probably you could just restrict more from coming, but just retain them. Thank you, guys. If you watched the video up to this point, I appreciate your presence and I love you to the moon and back.